Hi guys. You notice anything different? We got a whiteboard. I got my whiteboard back. So we really locking in. But yeah. So let's get a handle on unit 7. I'm gonna break this down into multiple videos. So this particular video is only gonna cover exactly what quadratic is and how is it different from the other 3. Okay. So we have learned about linear. Unit 6 was about exponential. I think 5 too, but don't quote me. And then 7 is quadratic and on. So there are some key differences. So I'm gonna write some equations. I have the microphone because not only do I have the TV on, but I also have the door open. So it's kind of loud in here right now. So here are our 3 equations. 3 times 2x. That's linear. That's what we're really used to and really good at. Exponential, 3 times 2 to the power of x. Okay. Now quadratic is 3 times x squared. So there's key differences if you look at them. Where the x is depends on I couldn't fit the whole thing in my car. So linear, we so good with linear. We not even really gonna talk about it that much. But the difference is where we're putting the x. So what's changing? Because x is what we're changing. We don't know what goes for x, so we replace it with whatever. Exponential, we replace the exponent. Exponential exponent. That should be pretty easy. Quadratic, we replace the growth factor. So remember, this was the growth factor. The 2 right here would mean that this is doubling. So we're starting at 3 and then we're doubling however many times. Now right here, the growth factor changes. So what we're multiplying by each time changes. Right here, we're multiplying by 2 each time. Right here, we don't know what we multiplying by each time, but we know it's squared. Okay? So the graphs look very different. Linear, linear line, linear line. Exponential is the one with the curve. One curve. Shoop. That's how exponential sound. Shoop, shoop. Quadratic, this is where we see a parabola. So I kind of been mentioning it throughout the year, but a parabola is just this. That's it, a U. Or it can go like this. Either one. So quadratic, parabola. On Desmos, it should be very easy. Exponential is just a shoop. Quadratic is like a shoop. I made that up. Quadratic has the squared term. So what that means is the x is squared. That's it. The x is squared. Every quadratic equation, the x is going to be squared. So it's going to be telltale signs. So if somebody asks you, is this one exponential or quadratic? You should be really quick on that because it's just different. If the exponent is an x, exponential. If the exponent is a 2, quadratic, usually. Y'all won't see too many other numbers in the exponents, not in math 1. All right, so let's look at an example. So let's say I have 2 equations, and this is actually in your book. I don't know, y'all probably already did this, but so I have 2 different equations or expressions, 2 to the power of n and n squared. This one would be exponential because I don't know my exponent. This one would be quadratic because my exponent is squared. Okay, that's genuinely the only difference right there. Well, not the only difference, but you feel what I'm saying. I need a paper towel. This was not good on the refrigerator, but it's not super good on the board either. So you also need to know that exponential expressions or equations always eventually pass quadratics because the growth factor changes. So whew, when I say exponential eventually passes quadratic, this is what I mean. So as I have 3 to the power of 2x. When I put in x, which would go right here as the exponent, -1, 0, blah 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 blah. 1.5. We growing. We growing kind of fast if I say so myself, but we growing. Now when you come over here to quadratic, it's 3 times x squared. This x goes right here instead of right here. So see the difference. Same numbers. We're using 3 and 2 and x. Same numbers, but you're plugging in at a different place. When you plug in these numbers, we're growing. We got the same numbers, -1 to 5, -1 to 5. But quadratic ends up at 75 and exponential ends up at 96. So when I say exponential passes quadratic, that's what I mean. I wouldn't necessarily say it grows faster because that could possibly not be true depending on the situation. But it will eventually pass quadratic. What I also want you to see is how we're consistently going up right here. We're doubling every time. That don't count because it's 3 to 5, but you get what I'm saying. Over here though, it's different. So I'm not necessarily saying times anything. All right. So when I go right here, I don't have the same growth factor. 0 divided by 3 is 0. You can't even do that. 3 divided by 0. 12, that's 12 divided by 3, that's 4. 27 divided by 12, that's like what? 2.25. Okay? So I don't have the same growth factor. I don't have a like growth factor at all for quadratic. We're growing by different things each time because the growth factor is changing. Okay? Now, another point I want you to see is how exponential is growing. It's continue to grow. But then quadratic starts at 3, drops down to 0, comes back up. Every time you see quadratic functions on a table, it's either going to drop and come back up or go high and go back down because it's a parabola. So this one starts at 3, goes down to 0, it comes back up to 3 and keeps going, keep going, keep going. Okay? So that's going to be your main difference between those. I think that's all the points I had to make for this particular video. Yeah, I'll make a list maybe on the video just so you know the difference. Just to tie it all together, or maybe not. Maybe take notes. What we mean it.